Hello, this is Kyle. Now, I was thinking again the other day about Nico Hulkenberg and how he's still struggling in that Force India and he might never get to fulfill that early promise he showed, for example taking the pole position for Williams in 2010, and that made me think of other drivers through history who for whatever reason never quite lived up to their hype. So this is my quick countdown of the top 5 drivers who never quite fulfilled their potential in Formula 1. And this excludes drivers who for whatever reason had their career cut short, so Robert Kubica's not in this list, for example.
In 5th place, Alexander Wurz. Wurz got his break in 1997, replacing Gerhard Berger at Benetton for 3 races. He almost immediately made an impact, scoring a podium in the British Grand Prix, and was rewarded with a full-time drive for 1998. The first half of the year was very strong, his most memorable moment being spectacularly rolling his car over at Montreal, only to restart the race and finish a steady 4th. Wurz was known for his technical insight, but his racecraft was more questionable and perhaps overcompensating. His results faded over his 3-year stint at Benetton. Testing roles at McLaren and then Williams eventually led to a full-time comeback in 2007, but despite reasonable results, Wurz lost motivation and withdrew before the end of the season. In 4th place, Clay Regazzoni, Lauda's forgotten number 2. Regazzoni debuted for Ferrari partway through 1970 and went on to have an extremely successful campaign, including a first win at Monza. Looking at his results, it's easy to see how he might have won the championship had he been in for the whole year. However, in the following seasons he struggled to repeat that success. In 1974, a new and improved Ferrari gave Regazzoni a shot at the championship, which he narrowly lost to Fittipaldi. But after that he was outperformed by new teammate Niki Lauda and was eventually dropped by Ferrari in 1977. He spent the latter part of his career with back-end teams, his one notable achievement taking the first ever win for Williams at the 1979 British Grand Prix. Then a shock accident caused by a brake failure at Long Beach the following year ended his career and also left Regazzoni paralysed from the waist down. In 3rd place, Giancarlo Baghetti. What greater way to make an impact than by winning your first Formula 1 race, which is precisely what Baghetti did in 1961, an achievement never repeated since. Technically, it was his 3rd win from 3 races, as he had already won 2 non-championship events with his privately entered Ferrari. He was awarded a works drive in 1962, but Ferrari were on a downturn in performance and Baghetti failed to reach the podium. Worse was to follow in 1963 when his involvement in the ATS breakaway team turned into a disaster. He never scored points again, despite a couple of one-off works drives for Brabham in 1965 and his final race for Lotus in 1967, both at his home race in Italy. In 2nd place, Ivan Capelli. For most Italians, driving for Ferrari is a dream come true, but for Capelli it turned into a nightmare. He first entered and scored points for Tyrrell in 1985, but it was in 1988 that he shot to prominence thanks to the Adrian Newey designed March 881, which allowed him to upset the balance by frequently running near the front, bagging 2 podiums. The following years, however, saw limited success for the small team, now renamed Leighton House, although Capelli came remarkably close to winning the 1990 French Grand Prix, eventually finishing 2nd. Being signed by Ferrari in 1992 should have been a major breakthrough, but Capelli struggled and lost motivation. Outperformed by teammate John Alesi, he was sacked before the end of the season. Jordan offered him a lifeline for 1993, but by now his heart was no longer in it, and Capelli withdrew after failing to qualify for the Brazilian Grand Prix. And in 1st place, it has to be John Alesi. Many thought he would go on to big things after a remarkable year with the underpowered Tyrrell in 1990, which saw him take podiums at the street circuits of Phoenix and Monaco. Phoenix was particularly memorable as he briefly duelled with eventual race winner Ayrton Senna, who would go on to be champion that year. His performances saw him move to, you've guessed it, Ferrari, but Ferrari were going through another slump in performance in the early 90s, and even teammate Alain Prost couldn't win a race with the 1991 car. Things didn't really start to improve until the middle of the decade, and Alesi got his breakthrough victory at the 1995 Canadian Grand Prix. The next year he switched to Benetton, the team that had secured both championships, but their 1996 car was mediocre, and he was never really in race-winning contention. After stints at Sauber, Prost and Jordan, all yielding little success, Alesi finally retired just after his 200th race at the end of 2001.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more quick countdowns. Also check out my Facebook and my website, and I'll see you next time.